Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Chappy Hour with Ana and Jelymar. I don't know if she's on this side of the screen or that side. She's here for me right now. How is everyone doing? Jelymar, how are you doing? How's your week been?
It's been good. It's good. It is cold. That's my low for the week, is that it's so cold, it's so snowy. But the positive is that like we don't have to drive to school.
That's true.
That's good.
Not getting stuck in the snow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Can I also say one other thing that has made me very happy last weekend?
Happy things.
Have you seen Attorney Cat?
No. What is
on
that?
Zoom? Oh, I am not skilled enough to like share this, but if you don't know about, it was like last week sometime, and there was like this judge, like a court thing happening, in Texas somewhere, and they were doing it on Zoom, and one of the lawyers had his filter where he was a cat, like, and then the judge was like, I think you have like a filter on. He's like, yeah, I don't know how to take it off, but it's me, I'm live, I'm not a cat. And every time he says, I'm not a cat, like I just burst into laughter and like happy tears.
You'll have to share that video with me. I have not seen that.
Oh my goodness, it is hilarious. And now they have like memes of like Attorney Cat like all over the place. So I
have not seen any of that. That's hilarious.
Attorney Cat, so good.
Okay.
How are you, Ana?
I am doing good. Also not loving the cold. That's also my low. It's just freezing, and I do love the snow. Like the scenery is really nice, but the minus whatever. Oh, because I do it in Celsius. My bad.
Okay.
Minus 20 something. That looks just super scary on my phone. And my high of the week. My high of the week. Oh, I have one. So I finally put some picture frames up in my living room, and I decided to be super fancy and do like black and white pictures of places that I've traveled to. So that's really fun, even though it kind of turns into a low because I look at them and I'm like, I want to be traveling, but I understand we have to stay home. But yeah, I love like looking at my memories, I guess. So
are they like your own pictures, or are they like prints of like cities that you've been to?
They're my own pictures that I've taken from cities I've been to. Yeah. So I chose pictures that didn't have like me or somebody else in them, and it's just like monuments. Like I have the Eiffel Tower and whatever else. So that's super fun to just look at.
Yeah, that is really cool. I have seen people, and like I asked that because obviously they're like the Eiffel Tower, like you can just like buy a picture of the Eiffel Tower, but I feel like it's really cool if it's like pictures that you've taken. Not that it's not cool if you buy a picture of the Eiffel Tower. Like I've never been to Paris.
Oh yeah, for sure. No. I mean, I copied like the idea because those pictures look just so cool in black and white. So I was like, oh, let me do that, reinvent that or recreate that, not invent. I didn't invent that.
You did.
Awesome. Well, those are our high and lows.
Love it.
For the week that we're sharing with you guys. And Jelymar, can you please remind our super awesome audience, what is Chappy Hour?
That is a great question. So if you are new here, welcome. So Chappy Hour is just a time. It is, casual. We're here. This is just water today, but like if you have tea, coffee, have a snack, hang out with us. It was a bad time for a sip of water, but it's fine. Hang out with us, and then we are just going to talk about different events happening at COD, different ways that you can get involved, different resources that are available to you. On today's episode, it was really cool. We were able to bring on David Swope and Jennifer Kelley, and they talked to us about like Black History Month and different events and resources and things that you can take part in, and just different ways to connect you with the COD community overall is our goal here. And we are just fun and hilarious, obviously. So
Yeah.
have fun with us.
We make fools of ourselves a lot of
Just
the time.
for your
that we're on
enjoyment.
here. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So definitely stay tuned for today's episode. Definitely talking to David and Jennifer. I had no idea of really all of the resources that are available for staff, faculty, staff, and especially students to learn and to keep evolving and really learning about this movement, really.
Yeah. So we are so excited to share that with you, later on in the video. But before we get to that, Ana, do you want to share some of our upcoming events and what we have going on?
Yes. Let me share events with you. So this past Wednesday, the 17th, the Student Life Fair went live on Flipgrid. So if you're interested in getting involved, we have tons of information about all the clubs and orgs that are available. So definitely check that out. We'll drop the link for that below. Also, check out the rest of the Black History Month celebration events. There's a lot coming up, so we'll also drop the link below for that. And we are super, super excited because in March, we're doing Wellness Wednesdays. So we're going to have a lot of events coming up in March. We're going to have events, giveaways, live events, Instagram lives, tons and tons of things to give you some resources about overall wellness. And we are super, super excited. So definitely make sure to follow us on our social media. We'll be posting constant updates on there. Our social media is at COD Student Life. We'll also drop that below so you can find us and stay up to date with all of the super fun things that are coming up and really cool giveaways, you guys. We are super excited for these giveaways. I'm really excited.
Yeah, they're so good. Okay, so let's dive into our conversation with David and Jen. Hi, everyone. We are here with Jen Kelley. She is one of our reference librarians at the College of DuPage. We're also here with David Swope. He is the manager for COD's Center of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And we are so excited to have them here today and have a little conversation just about Black History Month and how we can continue to get resources and educate ourselves now and throughout the year. So we like to give you a bunch of fun facts about ourselves, and we are going to ask Jen and David to give us some fun facts about them as well. So Jen, we can start with you. What is something fun about you?
Oh my gosh, something fun about me. I have greyhounds.
Oh.
Yeah, so I have 2 greyhounds, and they're retired racers.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is
awesome.
They're actually really lazy dogs though. They're more like cats. Like they're 100% retired. Like they don't do anything.
Well, I mean,
they're perfect.
They lived a life of racing, so they're like,
absolutely.
We're done with this.
Time to rest.
Yeah.
I love that. David, how about you? Tell us something fun about you. Let's get to know you a little better.
Well, let's see. I am big into music, and I love music and have an extensive album collection. Now, for those of you who do not know what an album is, because a lot of you guys think that it's a gigantic CD. No, well, I'm just playing. But I have a record player and an extensive album collection. And I enjoy listening to that every now and again. Still have the medium on iTunes and all of the downloads, but I tell you, there's a difference between listening to music on an album and downloading it. It's a different experience. So every now and again, my wife allows me a little free space and I can turn up the volume just a little bit on my albums, and I will stand in the middle of my space to dance, and I'll dance to the music that I listen to on my album. So I enjoy it.
What was the last album that you listened to?
Well, let's see. So I'm jazz oriented. And so there's an artist by the name of Al Jarreau. He is probably one of my favorites. So it's like Al Jarreau, David Sanborn, those types of artists. So I came up in the area when those guys were really popular. And so they also make some pretty cool music to do what's called the Chicago Step. I don't know if you guys know about that, but I'm from Chicago. So I like to do those.
Are you a stepper?
Oh, absolutely. No question.
We
No,
made
authentic.
a tutorial of this
Yeah.
for the end.
And
Okay.
we can do that when we get back on campus.
Yeah.
Jen and we're going to meet in the atrium.
You heard it here first.
I'll MC. I don't dance. I'll MC.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
All right. But you heard it here first. Don't forget, everybody, when we get back to campus, David Swope, Chicago
Yes.
Step tutorial in the atrium.
Oh,
I
boy.
love it. Okay. So we
so
brought Jen and David on because it is Black History Month. Jen, as a reference librarian, she is great at sharing different resources with faculty and staff about different resources that we could use to get educated and just lots of great things like that. She also hosts the African American Read-In every year, which is very fun. I can let you talk a little bit more about that, Jen. And then David, like I said, is the manager of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they do oversee all of the Black History Month programming. So with that, let's jump in to kind of some of our questions and our conversation about Black History Month at COD. So Ana, take it away.
Yes, we do have some questions to get our conversation started. So we do want to start off with just saying how have the College of DuPage Black History Month celebrations evolved over the years? And maybe what have been some of your favorite events that take place?
And either one of you can.
Yeah, either one of you can.
I'll let you start, David. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I will say is over the years, since I've started at College of DuPage, which was 2014, and the first kind of programming we did for Black History Month was really light. We did it, I think 2014, maybe 2015 was the first one. It was really light because we were trying to get our feet, at least in terms of my perspective of the office, established in terms of how do we best communicate, a teaching and learning experience for the Black culture to College of DuPage. I think after that first year, the one thing that I can say in terms of how it has evolved is that the collaborative effort amongst the departments throughout the college community has been outstanding. I'm at a point now, and Jennifer probably can attest to this, that in meetings, when we're planning Black History, to tell some of the team members, okay, we have enough. Because there's so many contributions that are coming in from the college. But we try to make sure that we give room for all of them, even when I say that we have enough. So over the years, it has just evolved to what you see now, which is a great contribution from all of our faculty and staff. And Jennifer Kelley and the rest of the team. So just the collaboration has really involved over the years to share a really powerful teaching and learning experience.
That's awesome.
I can second the collaboration. Like I can tell you, I started working with the Read-In in I think 2016, and it's a challenge to pull it off, and it's just been really great to have partners in doing this. And so in 2017, it officially became a library event. And so, then I can draw on a lot of my colleagues there. And we have the continual support of the Center for Student Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And I think the biggest challenge we've had that I feel like we've kind of met that challenge by partnering with the library is finding a location where people can come and go over the course of the day, being really flexible for our students and our faculty and our staff who, might be able to spare an hour or just, maybe 15 or 20 minutes just to see someone they know read. And so it's always been a challenge to find like a space that is, separate enough so that, we tried it in the middle of the atrium and that was a little insane. It was really busy and crazy. But then if you have it in like a smaller space, like, I don't know, like the boardroom or something like that, then you have the doors opening and closing and people don't feel like they can come and go. And so the library, because of the nature of the library, we just have people coming and going. And it's just been really great to have that flexible space and then, have David come with coffee and snacks and everybody feels really welcome.
That
Yeah.
sounds awesome.
I
I
mi-
can't
I
wait for
missed
us
that-
to be
I
back
missed
on
that part.
campus.
I
Yeah.
missed
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that's what makes it really special to just
Yeah.
be able to have those conversations in that safe space.
Yeah.
And it's so cool that like for the read in particular, you know, and a lot of these events, like you can come and go, and just that. My favorite thing was always like I would never miss a Black History Month opening when we were on campus, you know, because the students are so into it. The performers that you like bring on, David, are so good. And it really is like a giant party in the atrium. You know, this year it was over Facebook Live, and even then it was, you know, very good. The speakers were very good. But it's just that sense of community there, and like that sense of it's a big celebration, I think is so cool.
It is, yeah.
We missed that part this coming year as Jen and I have tried to navigate how we handle this best through the virtual medium. There's certain things that you just cannot replicate, or you can't set the environment, you know, like you can live and in person. So, but the college has really been great in terms of the reception of us working in this mode.
Yeah. Well, I think, David, if you just showed up to people's houses with donuts, that'll do.
Yeah, I think so too.
So Jen, how do we do virtual snacks?
I know.
Right.
Like bring your own donut. No.
Don't worry, guys. We're thinking about it. It'll come by
Yeah.
the end of this.
Yeah.
Okay, I love it. So let's talk a little bit about resources and just kind of getting educated around Black history and American history. Where can people get started? I feel like there's just an abundance of things out there, right? So like which is good, right? There's information flooding from left and right. So where can someone get started if they're like, okay, I want to learn more about Black history or American history? What's the jumping point?
I'm going to start with the 20-day series of Black history updates that we're doing right now. David has been posting the images and the links on Instagram for the Center for Student Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The blog posts are on the library's website at library.cod.edu/BHM. And it's modeled after something that I discovered, it must have been this summer. It's called Black History Boot Camp. And they're just like really short profiles about people. And what I really loved about it is that there were so many people that I didn't know about or had heard about but didn't know details, right? And each one got me like interested and wanted me and like got me wanting to learn more about these people or these events. And that's kind of what we're hoping to do with the Black history updates. And so they have short profiles of, you know, civil rights activists like Claudette Colvin and Anne Moody, but also pioneers in their fields like research chemist Percy Julian, who has Chicago background, used to live in Oak Park, and electrical engineer Jerry Lawson, who's really important in creating a lot of the things that we take for granted in video games, like the ability to pause a game, you know? And yeah, just for me, I'm learning a lot just curating the collection of profiles. And I think it's a really good entryway to just like, you know, maybe you see a picture and read a quote, and then you can dive a little bit further. And we try and add, you know, like something to read, something to watch, and something to listen to for each person.
Yeah, they're so good.
I echo that. I think how we get engaged is really interesting because, as Jennifer is explaining, there's a lot of information that we have made available. If you go to particular websites, and like Jennifer would mention her website, and obviously what we try to do is connect with websites through the Center for Student Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion website. So on that particular website, we try to list all of the information as much as we can, and then have associated links to more detailed information where one can find out and research. So in conjunction with the updates that are going on from the historical perspective of these characters, we also have what's called like a photo gallery. And a photo gallery is it's in tandem with what's going on in terms of the updates, but it provides more of a contemporary and historical photos that represent certain aspects of African American culture, not only throughout history, but also some of the things that's a little bit more contemporary. You know, like what would you know about aspects of Venus and Serena Williams? You know, and so we look at them and say, well, you know, they're athletes, but you know, it's interesting their course of history in America in terms of what they've done. And so what we try to do is, with the aspect of what's given to us historically from where Jennifer is speaking, which is fantastic, I want to make sure that some realize that aspects of history is being built even in this contemporary era. Like if I say the Carters to you all, you know, what would you think? Who would you think about?
Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Jay-Z and Beyonce. Well, a lot of people say, you know, hip hop music, but these people are probably some of the biggest entrepreneurs, community-oriented activists in American history. And see, we probably wouldn't think of it like that without kind of exploring a little deeper beyond some of the surface. So we try to connect, you know, the aspects of the depth of history, like what Jennifer's contributions are doing and the library's contributions are doing, and then also give a little bit more of the contemporary history that's being developed in the present age as well. So we try to hit it from both perspectives, and the information is there for those who care to research it, to get some really good information about the history from a teaching and learning perspective.
Yeah, that's really cool. I do like so appreciate that perspective of like what's happening now and kind of in modern times, because I don't know, that kind of blew my mind a little bit, because that's not something that you think about of like, oh, like you're learning, you know, things that happen and things that shaped where we are today, but like things that are happening now are shaping not only our today, but like what is coming next. So
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, let's move on.
So next question, and I think we kind of touched on it a little bit, but how or what have been some of your favorite reads recently regarding Black history, racial equity and equality, anti-racism, and et cetera in that realm?
I've read a lot since this summer, and I guess a couple of things that really stick out for me are a book by Rennie Edo-Lodge called Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. And what I really liked about it is that she's British, and so most of her experience and most of what she was talking about was racial history and the civil rights in England, which is something that like I didn't know anything about. And so to see the sorts of challenges and the sorts of movements and just the people and places and things that shaped you know, Black history and Black civil rights in another country was really, really interesting. And to see how that parallels in certain ways, but it's also really different from what's happened in the US. And then another book that I'm in the process of having sort of like a book talk type of thing about is Daryl Wing Sue's Race Talk and the Conspiracy of Silence, which goes into a lot of detail about why it's really difficult for Americans especially to talk about race and all the ways that society has created these barriers to prevent us from doing so. And it's been really illuminating. And I'm really excited to be having conversations about the book with colleagues across campus.
Yeah.
Are there, sorry, David, are there opportunities like that for students? I guess we'll touch on this a little later, but like those book discussions and things like that.
Yeah, we're constantly talking about like ways to do that and how to engage students in some of these conversations. One of the things that we're hoping to do is in March, we're launching this 21-day racial equity habit building challenge. And right now we're sharing it with faculty and staff. But we're hoping that faculty will invite their students to participate too, and that faculty can use it as a toolkit in their classrooms to talk about racial equity.
Okay.
That's one opportunity that I'm hoping we see develop a little bit more.
Awesome. Very cool. And sorry, I cut you off, David.
No problem. So I agree with where Jennifer is and the readings that's available. And I actually shared a book with Jennifer that I received, I think about 3 weeks ago, and it's entitled 400 Souls by Ibram Kendi and Keisha Blaine. And I just started reading this book, so I haven't read through it, but the way that it is written, it's they have over 90 contributions from writers, historians, and their perspective on the African American culture from 1619 to 2019. And what I've just started glancing at it, my wife and I are reading this, and what we just started glancing at, the way that they're telling the historical perspective of the impact of Africans in America and then Black Americans, I think the book is really deep in terms of how it makes that connection. For anyone looking probably to get that retrospective, the 1619 retrospective, because a lot of times you hear us talk about 1619 in terms of what that meant to America and its impact on Americans' history from the Black culture up to present day. This book is going to be able to cover a lot of that ground in a succinct way, in a chapter by chapter way. So interestingly enough, Jennifer, what this book probably can do is be broken down in discussions by chapter if we wanted to. Would be interesting because we could go to 1619, but then we could go to the 1800s, and that could lead us up to some of the revolutionary ages and then to some of the civil rights work as well. Even up to the contemporary times where obviously we're talking about issues such as Black Lives Matter, anti-racism. And it's interesting to see the parallels that are drawn between some of the civil rights movement era and some of the things that we're seeing now in regards to the Black Lives Matter movement. So I'm interested in what I'm seeing so far in this book in terms of its informative perspective on the Black culture in America.
That's really cool. Awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to reference these books in the description below.
We'll list
sound
everything.
like awesome reads. Yeah. Thank you for sharing those.
Okay. So speaking of putting all of this below, and there's a lot of different books and resources. What can students do to continue kind of this learning and this work outside of Black History Month, right? Because February is February, it comes and goes, but this stuff is still out there. It's still, important to know. And I feel like there is I don't know if it's new, hopefully it stays around, but this wider desire for people to gain information and all of that. So how do students continue to work on themselves and get this information and get educated so that they're not asking I have my Black friends over here, I'm going to ask them all these questions. How can we educate ourselves year round?
David, do you want to go ahead?
Well, I think first it's fine to talk to other people outside your typical sphere of influence, right? So one of the things we try to do in the diversity, equity, and inclusion aspect of it, and I've talked to Jennifer about this, and she's helped to inform some of the work that I do here as well, is that we try to build forums of uncomfortable or critical conversations towards a positive end. That means we need to stop talking around topic matters, right? And that's what Jennifer's leading us to do. And that's what I'm trying to do on the student perspective side, is give forums for students to have these uncomfortable conversations, get outside the norm of those that you typically talk to. One of the things that America is really good at is siloing us. In other words, putting us into these groups. And that's our existence in these groups. Well, actually, the learning component comes from when you reach outside of the group. And so students can take the initiative, and any see an email perhaps coming from the library with Jennifer Kelley's name on it, or coming from the diversity Equity and Inclusion Office with my name on it. I would strongly encourage you all students to engage in those emails and those activities. Number one. Number two, reach out and talk to people like Jennifer and myself. Develop advocates who are diversity practitioners, who are trying to lead in aspects of holistic equity and what it really means to be an anti-racist. You can't be an anti-racist if you don't know what racism is. And you can't really understand what racism is if you don't talk about it. And so if you can put those things together in the context of, I believe, what we offer here at College of DuPage, and I will say that we're building to do better. I have student groups now that are coming to me and they're great suggestions. And one of the suggestions is that we develop a student diversity club at COD, which is a broader perspective, but then we'll be able to address maybe some complicated, uncomfortable, and difficult issues from a student perspective, but we'll get a wider array of perspectives because this club may provide that type of platform. So I think there's some opportunities there to get engaged in that kind of work on an ongoing basis, and not just in February, which, by the way, is the shortest month of the year and the coldest month of the year.
Yes.
And I can tell you, Black people, one thing, they don't do short time stuff and they don't like cold weather. So I'm sorry, I had to add that in as a rule. I'm probably gonna edit that out, but that's it.
I'll keep it in. It's staying.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I love it.
I'm going to echo everything David said, especially those last points, but also the getting involved and having these conversations. I think that's the place to start. And I think one of the things that keeps us from having these conversations sometimes is just not feeling comfortable, not knowing, like I don't have the language to talk about this, or I don't have the experience to talk about this. So I think simultaneously having those conversations, but also like learning as you go. And even from things like, podcasts, like I talked about the Black History Boot Camp, which I think was a phenomenal way for me to get, reacquainted with Black history. But things like, was it Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man is another really good series. And, they're just short little YouTube videos or, short podcasts or, a blog or some articles. And so thinking about the topics, having conversations with friends and family about the topics, getting involved in events on campus, and, checking in with yourself and thinking like, how does this make me feel? What am I doing with this information? How can I carry it forward? And what kind of actions can I take to make this like part of what I do and who I am?
Right.
Awesome. I love it.
Great. Yeah.
We have one more question, but before we get to it, I did want to we talked a little bit about like the not distinguishing, but getting other perspectives outside of just, the trauma-based stories, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times we'll talk about, Black history and Black stories, and it's based in like trauma and all of these horrific things that have happened to the Black community, and how, it's great because there's stories of resilience and all of that, but there's so many great stories that are just like regular, like regular love stories, regular, friends, just things that are people living everyday life. Not everything is trauma. So I wanted to see if, we have any favorite like suggestions or things that people can look to do that, not just look at trauma-based things. I was saying before this, I watched Love and Basketball for the first time. It was so good. It was so good. I felt so like happy and warm at the end of that movie. And I feel like movies nowadays are like super predictable. And I was like trying to be like, oh, well, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And it did not go at all the way I thought it was going to, but I loved it so much. So if anyone has not seen Love and Basketball, I would recommend. But any other like favorite just Black family stories? And that is kind of the theme for this Black History Month, right? Black Family Foundation. So what are those kind of fun stories and content to take in? I know I didn't ask this before, so I'm putting you on the spot. But
one of my favorite is, and it means a lot to me, is the story of the Lovings, who were a couple who made interracial marriage legal. And there's a really great book by Matt Johnson called Loving Day, which kind of takes that on. And Matt Johnson is a really funny writer, and I think that's one of my favorite things to read for read-in is something that's funny. I think exactly because what you're talking about, Jelymar, is that there's so much focus on trauma and struggle and strife. Sometimes it's just really, I don't know, heartening to see that, you know, we all live lives that are like ridiculous and funny and sweet and wonderful and sometimes really boring too. And so to see that just normalized in like a movie or a book or in comedy, you know, just be like, okay, this is just happens to be a book about really funny Black people, or you know, a slice of life that you know, doesn't have any like major themes or issues in it. You know, it's just you know, people fall in love and get married, and you know, stuff happens.
Yeah. Oh, love.
That's one of the photos on the photo gallery.
Yeah.
The Lovings. Yeah. That's one of our photos. And in that, Jen, I will echo what you're saying. I think there's a lot of cool stories. Right. And sometimes we don't see the stories as they unfold in front of us. Like if you would talk to me about my family, right? Black family with a background, the majority of them are educated people. And if I look back in my own, now I'm personal, in my own history from when I came up on the west side of Chicago, I don't remember difficult times relative to some of the things that I've learned over time regarding history. And one of the things that I really liked in terms of pop culture, that I enjoy the story. I like watching it, and I've watched it several times. I believe the name of the movie is Hidden Figures. I just love that movie.
So good. I love
it.
It
is a cool movie about women that I never really knew about until that movie came out. And I'm being very transparent. But to hear their story and then to see their lives unfold, kind of like what Jennifer is saying, where they had relationships and they had children, and it wasn't, you know, necessarily a story of oppressive struggle. It was just a story about these women who were talented and gifted, and they wanted to persevere and just pursue their passions, and wound up being historical in the narrative of what they were able to contribute to, you know, space and astronautical affairs. And I just think it's a cool story. The music was cool. And so you tie certain aspects of how the music made you feel and the nature of the story. And another thing you saw in that story is people actually coming together on common ground to do this one thing. So they didn't get hung up on, you know, the Black and the white issues or the issues of race. As a matter of fact, there's one scene where the guy comes and he's knocking down the sign that says color. He's like, listen, at NASA, everybody goes to the bathroom the same way or something like that. And I thought, I'm like, that's cool, you know, because that's the nature of, you know, how we come to learn a little bit more about each other. So I just thought that movie was really impactful, and it reminded me of certain aspects of family personal.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, we've kind of referenced this throughout our conversation, but what resources are in place for students to get support in this area at COD? So what's available to them?
So the library has a resource guide called Anti-Racism and Anti-Oppression, and it's a big sort of collection of books and videos and articles and other things. And I know David and some of the presentations that you've done, you've referenced this and, you know, made it available to students. And I think that has been a pretty popular resource just to, like, you know, touch on everything from, you know, understanding, you know, allyship or what social justice looks like in the classroom, or, you know, talking about race or whiteness or, any of these really big topics that sometimes, we have a little bit of trouble kind of getting in on. And so knowing that, instead of having to wade through like all the 500 books on race and racism, here's like a few that we've selected that, you can get through the library, you can read online, you can access pretty easily.
Great.
And likewise, the websites, kind of repeating what we said earlier, I really encourage the college community and the students go to our web pages. I think I can say this for Jennifer because I've seen it over time, as well as for what we're trying to do, is we're trying to put more interactive content on our web pages.
Right.
And so we've developed some archives now where you can go back and you can see the diversity, equity, and inclusion series that we typically hold every October, that we're looking to expand to do at least once every semester now. And so you can see Positive Voices Talk Show. We did that back in 2015, and we did like 2 or 3 segments, and we're looking to bring that back. But what we discovered is that information was being viewed by faculty, and some of the faculty had commented that they had looked at the Positive Voices Talk Show and used that as the basis of certain aspects of their discussions in the classrooms to talk about diversity, equity, race, ethnicity, and learning. And so we have these archives now that we're building. You can go back and see Black History Month programming all the way back to 2015, maybe 2014. And so you can, in a chronological fashion, see how we've developed over a period of time, and then get more information there as well. And then I will also add that what we try to do, at least on the diversity, equity, and inclusion side of the office for students, is we want to avail them to resources that they can qualify for by participating either in something like the MLK Scholarship or the Expressions Competition, which is a competition where students can contribute in any way they want. They can write, they can record a song, they can do poetry, they can do artwork, and they can pick the content by which they want to share. And then there will be a group of impartial judges who will look at the work. And what we're typically able to do now is probably give away somewhere in the neighborhood, I would say, of 5 to upwards to maybe 12 $500 scholarships or $500 awards to students who will just engage in this aspect of teaching and learning. So not only are there resources that they can learn from, but there are also opportunities that can help contribute to the funding of their education. And so we believe this is one cool way to give back to our diverse community that we serve.
Yeah, that's really good.
Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
Wow, there's lots of resources for our students. So hopefully they'll check those out. I'm excited.
Yeah. And I would just say, David and Jen shared so many things like throughout this whole thing. I think a big thing is just engagement, like you're putting on all these great programs. And even though, we're virtual currently, I don't think that has decreased the quality of any of our programming, which I think is so impressive for us as a college overall. So, if you're a student and you're watching this, make sure to kind of go, it's scary. It's scary, but get engaged and get involved in the things that are happening because it's such quality content and such quality programming. And I think it will really make a difference in kind of what your experience at COD is in the long haul, right?
And for the most part, we're only just a click away, which is so much easier than, trying to navigate your way around campus to find an event, just click in, see if you like it, and nobody notices if you sneak out early.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know we talked about this at one time where we would typically have maybe 4 meetings in the day, and that would be a lot. And now we can do 8 meetings in a day. And I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But it's good to be able to.
Threshold has gone up. Yeah.
Zoom fatigue is real.
Yeah,
it is real.
It is.
But I think the point is that we have the access. And I will tell you that this mode of communication in the pandemic has really taught me something in terms of how we can improve our communication efforts and how we can really, learn a little bit more about how technology works in with that. And so even when we get back to, in-person and interactive person-to-person engagement and activities, I think the way that we're communicating now is going to be built in some of that as well. So it's been positive.
Awesome. Well, that brings us to the end of our time. Thank you both, Jen and David, so much for joining us on our second episode of Chappy Hour. We were so happy to have you. And yeah, Ana and I were very excited to kind of put this together and extend the invite. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. This was great fun to talk to you and to share with the students. And thanks for helping us.
Absolutely.
Of course. Thank you for all the resources. Yeah.
And we will link those
great.
in the description. So if you heard something that you really liked, we'll put everything in the description. We'll put the library links. We'll put, links for diversity, equity, and inclusion at COD. All of that will be there, as well as the listing for all the future Black History Month events for the month of February.
Yeah.
Great.
Yay.
Thank you
Awesome.
so much.
Thank you guys.
Goodbye, everyone.
Well done. Well done.
All right, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed our conversation with David and Jen today. We know we did, and we were super excited to have them on board with us. If there is a topic that you want to hear about, if there is somebody from COD that you think would be really great to talk to on our show, please let us know on the comments below, and we can work towards bringing them on. We'd be super happy to have anybody.
Right. And then we will put these out every 2 weeks. So make sure to join us 2 weeks from today to catch our latest episode. If you have not already, make sure to subscribe to this channel, give this video a thumbs up, and then leave our comments down below so we can kind of know what you thought, what resources you might have. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for tuning in. See you later.